You just made a mistake. Maybe 5 minutes ago. Maybe this morning. And somewhere in your head, a quiet voice already started building the defense. It wasn't really my fault. I didn't have all the information. Anyone would have done the same thing. You didn't choose to think that. It just happened. And that's the strange part. Because the real answer isn't that you're stubborn or dishonest or in denial. The real answer is far stranger. Your brain is running a security system, and admitting you were wrong sets off the alarm. Think about the last time someone pointed out a mistake you made. Not a small one, a real one, something that mattered. Did you feel curious? Or did you feel a flash of heat behind your eyes, a tightening in your chest, a need to explain yourself immediately? For most people, it's the second one. And that reaction happens before you've even processed what the mistake actually was. In 1957, a psychologist named Leon Festinger gave this feeling a name: cognitive dissonance. It's the discomfort you feel when two beliefs collide inside your head at the same time. Belief 1. I am a smart, capable, good person. Belief 2. I just did something incompetent, careless, or wrong. Your brain cannot hold both of those comfortably. So it looks for the fastest way out. And here's the twist. The fastest way out is almost never to update belief 1. It's to bend belief 2 until it fits. That's why the excuses show up so fast. It wasn't the right time. I was tired. Nobody explained it properly. Your brain isn't lying to you on purpose. It's protecting the story that lets you keep functioning as a competent person in your own mind. Now here's where it gets stranger and more personal. This isn't just a story about a strange cult from decades ago. It's a story about what happens inside your skull every single day on a much smaller scale. Researchers have found that people consistently explain their failures using outside forces and their successes using inside qualities. You missed the deadline because the project was disorganized. You hit the deadline because you're disciplined. Psychologists call this the self-serving bias, and it shows up everywhere, from classrooms to courtrooms to marriages. It's not a personality flaw. It's closer to a default setting. But why would evolution build a brain that lies to itself? Wouldn't a brain that sees reality clearly have an advantage? Not necessarily. Not in the environment your ancestors lived in. For most of human history, you didn't survive alone. You survived inside a small group, maybe 30, maybe 50 people, who all depended on trusting each other's judgment. If you were seen as careless, unreliable, or foolish, that wasn't just embarrassing. It could mean losing your place in the group. Losing food access. Losing protection. In a world with no hospitals, no police, no safety net beyond the people around you, a damaged reputation could be lethal. So a brain that could defend its reputation even to itself, even when the evidence said otherwise, had a real survival advantage over a brain that simply accepted every uncomfortable truth the moment it appeared. Self-justification wasn't a bug. It was armor. And your brain still wears that armor today, even though the stakes have changed. You're not going to get exiled from a tribe because you sent the wrong email. But your nervous system doesn't always know that. It reacts to social threat the same way it reacted 10,000 years ago. This isn't just a metaphor. It shows up in brain scans. Neuroscientist Jonas Kaplan and his team put people in an fMRI machine and challenged their strongly held political beliefs with contrary evidence. What lit up wasn't the calm, analytical part of the brain. It was the amygdala and the insula, the same regions that activate when you're facing physical danger. Being told you're wrong about something you believe in doesn't just feel uncomfortable. To part of your brain, it registers like a threat to your body. So when you feel that flash of defensiveness after a mistake, that isn't weakness. That's an ancient alarm system doing exactly what it was built to do. Protect you. Except now it's protecting you from something that can't actually hurt you the way it used to. It's protecting you from the truth. Some researchers argue this system runs even deeper than reputation among strangers. Anthropologists studying small-scale hunter-gatherer societies have noted how central reputation was to daily survival, not as an abstract social nicety, but as a practical resource. Deciding who got invited on the next hunt, who received food during a bad season, who was trusted to watch the children. A person who was constantly seen making errors and refusing to defend themselves risked becoming someone the group quietly stopped relying on. Over enough generations, brains that could mount a fast, convincing defense of their own competence, even a slightly exaggerated one, tended to keep their place in the group. Brains that couldn't sometimes didn't. It helps to picture the difference between two ancestors. One admits every mistake instantly and completely, and slowly earns a reputation as clumsy, unreliable, someone whose judgment can't be trusted with anything important. The other explains away failures, highlights successes, and maintains a reputation as capable and confident, even when the truth is messier underneath. In a small group where reputation determined access to food, mates, and protection, the second strategy often won, at least often enough to get passed down. You are, in a very real sense, descended from excellent self-justifiers. Here's the part that should really stop you. This process happens before conscious thought has a chance to weigh in. The excuse doesn't arrive after you've calmly considered the situation. It arrives instead of that consideration. Psychologist Carol Tavris spent years studying this pattern and described it as a kind of internal lawyer, one that starts building your defense the instant a mistake is even suggested. Gathering evidence, twisting facts, dismissing anything inconvenient, all in service of one goal: keeping your self-image intact. And the more competent you consider yourself in an area, the harder that internal lawyer works. Experts are often worse at admitting mistakes than beginners because a mistake threatens something bigger for them. Not just this one decision, but their entire identity as someone who is good at this. Watch it happen in ordinary places. A driver cuts someone off in traffic and immediately explains it away. The other car was going too slow. They didn't signal properly. Nobody sits in that moment and thinks, I simply made an error. The explanation shows up first, fully formed, before any real thinking takes place. A manager misses a deadline and points to a client, a vendor, an unclear brief, anything external. A friend forgets an important date and finds a dozen reasons the week was unusually hard. None of these people are unusually dishonest. They're running the same ancient defense you run, on a smaller, quieter scale, dozens of times a day, often without ever noticing it. Social media didn't create this instinct, but it gave it a stage. Public correction, being wrong in front of an audience, activates the exact same threat response as being wrong in front of your ancestral tribe. Except now, the tribe can be thousands of strangers, watching in real time. That's part of why online disagreements escalate so fast. It's rarely about the facts anymore. It's about defending a version of yourself that feels like it's under attack. Doubling down doesn't feel irrational from the inside. It feels like survival. There's a name for what happens when the stakes get even higher. When someone isn't just protecting a mistake, but actively caught making one. Psychologists describe a pattern where a person accused of wrongdoing reacts by denying it, attacking the accuser, and reversing the roles of victim and offender. It sounds calculated from the outside. From the inside, it often isn't. It's the same internal lawyer, just working overtime because the threat to identity is bigger, which raises an uncomfortable question. If your brain is built to defend you instead of correct you, how does anyone ever actually change? The answer isn't willpower. It's distance. Studies on self-reflection have found something counterintuitive. People are far better at analyzing their own mistakes when they imagine themselves as a separate person, almost like a character in a story, rather than facing the mistake head-on as themselves in the moment. The instant you remove the direct threat to your identity, the internal lawyer relaxes. The alarm stops ringing, and real evaluation becomes possible. That's why it's often easier to see exactly what a friend did wrong in a conflict than to see your own role in it. It's not that you care less about your own life. It's that your own mistakes are wired directly into your threat detection system, and theirs aren't. There's a simple trick built on this finding. Some therapists ask clients to describe their own situation in the third person using their own name instead of I, as if narrating someone else's story. It sounds strange. It works. The moment the sentence shifts from I made a terrible decision to she made a decision that didn't work out, the internal lawyer stands down just slightly, just enough to let something closer to the truth get through. None of this means you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes forever, defended and unexamined. It means the path to seeing clearly runs around the alarm system, not through it. Confronting yourself head-on, demanding honesty through sheer force of will, usually just makes the internal lawyer work harder. Stepping back, creating even a small amount of distance tends to work better than any amount of self-discipline. Think back to this morning, to the mistake you made and the explanation that arrived almost instantly to soften it. That explanation wasn't dishonesty. It was your ancient alarm system, still running code written for a world of small tribes and life-or-death reputations, a world that hasn't existed for thousands of years. Your brain isn't trying to stop you from growing. It's trying to keep you safe. using rules that were written long before safety meant what it means today. You didn't choose to defend yourself the moment things went wrong. Somewhere in your head, a quiet voice already started building the case for you, long before you knew you'd need one.